Hey guys, welcome back to the MLG community party. We've been doing some coaching with the community. So what we do is we pick two people, they play against each other. I do some commentary, but it's more coaching commentary. But you can kind of learn. I try to coach both sides a bit, and then hopefully they can watch the VOD, which will be up on youtube.com/official MLGSC2 afterwards, and learn some stuff themselves as well. So to pick our next two people who are going to play in this game and get some coaching, there's going to be a trivia question, and the answer to the question is going to be the channel you join. And the question is going to be, which former Kespa player, he played in Brood War, he played in StarCraft 2 as well, left and became both a coach and he owned his own team? And the answer is going to be the channel. So for example, if the answer was Life, the player Life, you join channel Life. Of course, it's not Life. It's 16. He doesn't own anything. Well, actually owns playing stuff. But he's a pro gamer, not a coach or a team owner. But this guy was a former pro gamer who then went on to be a coach and own his own team. Looks like we have a bunch of people in the channel. I actually can't tell who joined first. We'll do new people. I think Klam was probably the first person in here. So it's going to be Klam. Let's see what level. After actually H-Jax was the first person here, I think, but of course H-Jax played in our previous match, so we're gonna try to get a little bit more rotation in. So Klam's a top platinum player, so we'll see who in this channel is close to top platinum. Junho is, and he came in pretty early too. You know, that one might have been too easy because so many people joined so fast. But we're gonna do Klam versus Junho. Let me just double check, make sure Junho is around that same level. There we go. Okay, he's diamond, but diamond and platinum, basically the same thing, right? So we'll do this. We'll do Klam and Junho. We just did Belshir Vestige, so let's do a different map. Maybe let's do some Whirlwind. Whirlwind's a pretty awesome map. Whirlwind's actually one of my favorite maps. I like it because the tactics are more subtle on Whirlwind. They're not as obvious as on Belshir Vestige, where it's so obvious where the important ramps to control and which paths to attack from. Belshir Vestige, there's a lot of open paths, but some of them are hard to get to, and there's certain positions on the map that as you control them, you can really kind of choke off a lot of the map. It's one of the few maps where concept of the inner circle is an extremely important tactical concept, and I mean that's been used throughout strategists, you know, for all of history. It's the idea that the inner circle is if there's two important points to get to, whoever can cross between those points closer, they control that area. They have the inner circle. If you think about it as a circle, 2 points on a circle, the closest way is through the inside of the circle. But if that's in opposing territory, you have to go outside, and the person inside has the tactical advantage. But Whirlwind, that's a very important concept. Let's see, these guys are ready. Green and red are going to be the colors of choice. Going a little bit of Christmas style here. Looks like we have a Zerg versus Zerg. We'll get this one started off. Zerg versus Zerg on Whirlwind can be a little bit tricky because so much of Zerg vs. Zerg is based on Overlord scouting. For example, the most simple aspect is you send your Overlord, always your first Overlord, to your opponent's natural. That's what you do in Zerg vs. Zerg. And on Whirlwind, there's 4 spawns. So you're not going to know exactly which natural to send it to. So there is a slight advantage in if you can scout your opponent earlier. And also there's always a decision, should you drone scout or not. But also, because it's so big, that's less of a factor. Because it's big enough that things that get hatched first can actually hold off most of the early pulls anyway. And one of the tricks to do that. So let's say if you're Junho here. It looks like I might have started too early, but he just got back. If I started too soon. Look at phone, guys. So one of the tricks, let's say you're Junho, and someone's 6-pulling you. And so there's some Zerglings, maybe they pull drones too. If they pull drones, it's different. Let's just say there's just Zerglings. You want to hatch first, you've got a hatchery here. And you got a spawn pool probably just started. There's Zerglings come in here. What you do is you can stack all your drones on this mineral right here. because then they're all in one little notch, and then only 2 Zerglings can attack you. And if you really quickly right-click a Zergling, all your drones will attack them real quick, and then you right-click back on the minerals, and you keep repeating that process so you can fight the Zerglings off very efficiently. They pull the drones as well. That can kind of mine in and break your group. And so in that case, you want to just run in circles and wait until you basically, your spawn pool gets up. And then you can make some of your own Zerglings. It's a cool little tip to hold off a 6 pool. We can see here, Klam decided to drone scout. Both players look like they're going for hatchery first openings. Oh, he almost is able to block that hatchery. That would have been pretty cool. Almost never see a hatchery block in ZVZ. So right now, you could almost say Junho, in a way, has the advantage. This is actually a weird Overlord sending out diagonally across the map. I'm trying to figure this out. I'm trying to think of a reason to send this Overlord diagonal. I mean, well, he already scouted his opponent, so these Overlords should be going. So once you know where your opponent is, okay, is he redirecting him? No, he's not. So once you know where your opponent is, you want to have your Overlords outside of Queen range. Then you want to put them in a path, like you want to have like one out here. You know, you want to put maybe one right here, one right here, and then, you know, like one in front of your base or something like that. There's a bunch of different positions depending on the map, and if you think they're going muted, you might want to start trying to pull those Overlords away again. But a basic idea is you want to have Overlords, so as soon as your opponent sends speedings outside their base or roaches, you can catch wind of it on their side of the map instead of when they pop up at your base, all of a sudden you're caught by surprise. So that's why it's a little surprising to see these 2 Overlords kind of in fairly useless locations. Overlords are one of your most important tools as far as scouting goes. Just like for Terran, supply depots are one of their best tools for defense. You place the depots in walls, you place them intelligently, and you can set up these really cool traps. You can make a depot wall here, another depot wall up here, and then even in your main, you can do things like put two depots here, and you can you can like raise one of them and make a choke point against speedlings, or in your third base, let's take a third base here, you put 2 depots here. You can do weird placements just to make it harder for your opponent to harass you. So look at this. So Klam is doing something very interesting. Both of them did fairly standard openings. Hatch first, pool and gas. But Klam is getting a Baiting Nest before Zergling speed. And that's something at a pro level is always a bad idea. Well, no, sorry. At a pro level, if your opponent's doing a similar opening as you, it's always a bad idea. If you both do the same opening, Zergling speed will beat Baiting Nest. It's something you do if your opponent like doesn't get a hatchery. You just go for straight speedlings and speedlings and Baitings off one base or something. Then you get the Baiting Nest early. But against someone who goes hatch first, the Zergling speed faster is a much better investment than the Baiting Nest. And the reason why is because if you have speedlings, you control the whole map. You can get in front of your opponent's base. And speedlings can out micro Baitings pretty well at a pro level. Now, at a lower level, I'm not sure if this is a bad idea. Because speed really only helps you if you're good at controlling the speedlings. So, if you're really just mostly focusing on hitting perfect injects and on building Zerglings, I'm not sure if I mind this Baiting Nest too much. Definitely going to be more defensive. It's as soon as you walk into a map with slow Zerglings and Baitings, you're risking your opponent having more units than you, and you not being able to retreat because they have Zergling speed and you don't. So that's the big disadvantage of not having speed. Like this right here is super, super risky. I'd like to send 1 or 2 Zerglings out to scout, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But sending 7 Zerglings out, I mean, what if 10 speedlings just walk up and kill these guys, right? In fact, there's not enough right now. But that's why this is super risky to move out like that. If his opponent had a few more speedlings, he would have been just lost all those Zerglings for very little gain. So try to stay off the map unless you have the speedlings. Now, both players are missing a lot of injects here. You can see that. Well, actually, no, they're not. Sorry, they just filled up a lot of resources. I wasn't paying attention. Okay, so they've droned up higher than you would for a super aggressive speedling baiting build. Is the first thing. And also, they haven't been investing much in gas. So both their builds are slightly unoptimized for the sake of, well, they're optimized for roach builds. But for example, actually they are going to roach, but it's a little bit late. Oh, here come the Banings. Oh, you almost got it. That was actually, if he juked into the main, that would have been awesome here. So as I was saying, they're both good roach builds, but they could have done it a little bit more efficiently. And what I mean by efficiently is number one, getting more queens. If you're doing a roach build, you're going to want to have more creep spread. You're going to have queens to defend against early speedings. If you think about, let's say from Klam's perspective, right? He's saying, I want to invest in a lot of upgrades for my roaches. I'm going for lair, and I want to go for roaches on their tech, right? If I want to do all these, for the first 9 minutes of the game, I want to be defensive. Now, what's the more cost-efficient way to defend? Let's actually look at spending. We'll bring our spending time as soon as it gets some latency issues from Junho. But you're thinking, okay, he built a baiting nest. He got Zergling speed. So technology, some of this technology was on Zergling speed and baiting nest.
Paused.
And those could have been, looks like there's some issues really quick. Well, we're going to bring it back to the desk here for a second. Yeah, there's some lag issues. So technology, he spent 250 resources on a baiting nest, counting the drone, and 200 resources on Zergling speed. That's 450 resources, and he spent like 1,200 resources on the army, and most of that was speedings and a couple baitings. So if you think of all those resources, and he's only using them to defend, because his goal is to get upgraded roaches. Looks like they're ready.
Game resumed.
All right. So his goal is only to get roaches. So this army spending could have been way lower. Tech spending could have been actually the same, but he would have 1-1 already on the way. If instead of getting all the speedings and banelings, he just got a couple extra queens. He'd have injects, he'd have, of course, the injects. He'd have transfuses for the roaches, transfuses for the spine core for great defense. He could put one creep tumor early, and then he could put the evo chambers right here, spine core, and then queens can wall it off. And you have a great defense, and he could have the same amount of harvesters, but at 10 minutes, he'd already have a bunch of roaches with speed done. So if you want to shoot straight to roaches, you want to be defensive until then, there's no reason to get Zergling speed or the banelings or that many Zerglings. Just get extra queens and make sure you have a wall set up to defend. And same thing for Junho. If Junho wanted to be super aggressive with speedings early on, you kind of have to do it earlier. You can't be aggressive on speedings off of, I think it was on 36 drones. At that point, you're not looking to deny the natural, you're looking to deny the third. So right now, you should be looking to deny the third. Because he drone up so heavily early and then went to speedings, of course, one, his opponent was ready, he didn't do damage. And then number two, what happened is he had all this extra mineral surplus because he was doing a rush, but his economy didn't equal his production. Every rush, you want to make sure your economy equals your production in a rush. In a macro build, your economy is going to exceed your production because you're investing in getting more economy on a consistent basis. But he should definitely be looking, to deny the third base of his opponent. If he's going to sit around with that many extra speedlings, definitely look to deny the third base because you know, okay, I got my speedlings, I delayed my evos, I delayed my lair tech. He's just getting roach speed right now. It's already done. His 1-1's just started. What did I get to balance out that much later tech investiture? Well, I got all these early speedings. Well, if you get early speedings, you're supposed to use them down your opponent's third base. And because of all those early investment decisions, that he invested in the rush, but it was a late rush, so it wasn't poorly timed, or it was poorly timed. Excuse me. We're in a situation where Klam has a significant advantage. Now, what to do with that advantage? And what to do if your opponent has an advantage? If you're in Junho's position, you're going to play defensively and keep tabs on your opponent's workers at your third base and match them. That's what Junho wants to do. He wants to say, okay, how many workers does he have? I want to keep even on him and workers, which he's not doing, unfortunately, and then just stay defensive. Now, from Klam's position, he wants to do a similar thing. He wants to say, okay, I have a lead. I can use that lead to, one, make sure basically, this is the rule when you have a lead. You want to use that lead to get a base up on your opponent. Now, by base up, I don't necessarily mean have a one base more than your opponent, but have one base more mining than your opponent. So he can go ahead to this third base and mine it, and he can take a look at what Junho's up to. And if Junho is playing too greedy, he can say, well, I'm stronger than you. If you're trying to play greedy as well, I'm just going to kill you. And flood roaches at him. And then meanwhile, keep teching up. Because if his opponent's not playing that greedy, right, we can see, unfortunately, he's still having some latency issues. But we can see Junho's not playing that greedy. In fact, he's actually keeping up in the short term. In fact, even surpassing Klam in unit count. So what does Klam do? Now he has economic advantage. He just sits back and waits. Right? All he has to do is wait, add in some hydras, keep upgrades going, and just pump out units. Once he gets max, then he can start attacking, and he can use the fact that he can reproduce much faster than Junho due to superior economy to overwhelm him with multiple waves of units. Also, I like the creep spread. Creep spread gets to be pretty good for vision in ZVZ. That's why it's good to spread out this way. And also for reinforcing. If he wants to attack, he wants to spread the creep. If you want to defend, it's not that important. If you want to defend, just spread it between your bases, but not towards your opponent. If you want to attack, ideally the whole map's covered in creep because that shortens the rally distance to walk across the map. So what Klam should be doing in the next 2 minutes is, one, quickly max out. Probably make a wave of hydras. To make 10 hydras right now, then rally more roaches. All right, make the 10. Okay, 11 hydras, there you go. Then the next 20 supply can be roaches because of the resource discrepancy, just rallying the rest of 20 supply and roaches. And then what Junho wants to do here is he wants to make sure he wants to join up the third because he can't be behind economy long term. Then he wants to defend. So if you're behind like this in a ZVZ, you know your opponent's going to be on Roach Hydra. To draw it out to the late game where you can maybe make a comeback with Swarm Host usage or some other late game technique, you can even get some spine crawlers. Get like 3 spines right here. This is the path your opponent wants to attack up most because the shortest path. Get like 3 spines there. This is the secondary path they'll attack. Get another 3 spines here. You've got the extra minerals, at least at the moment now. You have to build some more drones to compensate for that. But that's fine. You really want to make sure you get that. You want to make sure you can't die right now. Because right now, if Klam started throwing units at him, he might be able to overrun Junho. Just because he's got 2/2 upgrades right now, right? And Junho's only 1/1, and he has, you know, a lot more resources in the bank. So as long as he has larva, he has 17 larvae, he has more larva advantage as well. He can just overrun Junho with a remax. Even though right now the army value's fairly even. He is stronger, so I would like to see him just be aggressive right now. If Klam's not aggressive in the next minute, or half a minute even, he's going to lose his advantage. Oh, he's found an angle. That was a cool move. He faked his opponent, then he's able to get the high ground, get the grid. Look at this concave. Beautiful move from Klam. Now what he wants to do is just manually control these roaches and make sure they're at the front. Okay, he's in at the hydras. Good job. Queens are in there transfusing. Well, not transfusing, but they could be. Ideally, these 2 roaches, or these 2 hydras have been in the battle, but it's fine to kill the hatchery too. And from now on, yep, spam the roach button. I'd like to see even more larvae being turned into roaches. Here's a test. Why they're doing this? Where the inject psych. Okay, he actually doesn't even have any queens, so this is actually the problem. If Klam had more queens than he was injecting, this wouldn't be there. He'd be at max. He's only at 180. That being said, I mean, he wins the game anyway. But it would have been nicer to really be a little more on top of those injects, so you wouldn't have this larva problem that he has right now. But going forward, he can just run over his opponent. Pretty straightforward victory there from this first half. So as we're watching last seconds of this before Junho realizes that he's in the dire situation. From Klam's point of view, the opening wasn't as efficient as it could have been. You really either want to commit to speeding aggression, or if this can be defensive, you know, just go straight for the roaches. If your goal is to get a Roach Hydra army, if your goal is to get the Roach Hydra army and get those upgrades in, from the beginning, don't worry about getting the baiting nest super fast. Just scout your opponent. If they're not being super aggressive, you don't have to get the baiting nest. You don't have to get Zerging speed. But do make sure you get 4 queens as fast as possible. Put a creep tumor by our natural on Whirlwind, so you can get creep out to that ramp as fast as possible. Then once creep's on the ramp, that's where you build your evos, your spine, and you place your extra queens there to make a solid wall. Now, you say, what if my opponent attacks me before I get all that in? Well, if they go hatchery first, they can't really hit that timing before they have Zergling speed. And if you see, you have your Overlord in front of their base, if you see slow Zerglings leaving the base, you rally in a lot of your own slow Zerglings, and you should be fine with that defender's advantage, having extra queens, and being closer to your rally point. So that's a couple things Klam could have done. Overall, a really well-played game by him. From Junho's point of view, it's really just the opening. He did a pseudo-speeding all-in, but it wasn't an all-in because he got 36 drones first. But then it also made it too late to do any damage, but it still put him very far behind because the extra resources he mined with the drones, because he didn't have enough gas, he couldn't turn into a lair, he couldn't turn into upgrades. He could have turned into a faster at hatchery, which would have been awesome. And it would have been a very different game, but he didn't. So if you're going to do something like 36 drones and speedings for map control, you better have that third hatchery so that once you have map control, you can use it by droning up. So that wraps up that segment. We'll take a short break and be right on to some more community coaching.